is going to be an interesting challenge. When you come and work in a country like the Netherlands, you have a secondary language option. And that also means that you will have to make a decision which language you're going to learn. But without further ado, let's talk about the job market. So we've created a little presentation for you guys, and I'm going to bring it up. I just need to make sure that I bring up the right one, right? Anna's going to go present this for us, but I see that my to presentation button has disappeared all of a sudden. We're going to do it like this. There we are. We'll just do a hard cut to get it. We'll get the information to you. So, Anna, let's have a quick look here and then have a little bit of chat. Today we're going to talk about income, and we're going to talk about work and salaries, or how do you get money. We've talked before about housing, so how do you get a roof over your head. We've talked about culture, so what are the weird and wonderful things about the Netherlands. And we're going to talk now about work and income, or basically how do you fill your belly and get some money in your pocket. So the first thing I just want to quickly do is to talk about Coaches4Ukraine. So this is an initiative that Kostya and myself started up. It's basically helping people coming in from the Ukraine to Europe, specifically with coaches. So if you're stuck, everything from trauma all the way through to getting to integrate within a family, or that you might be staying with, or finding somebody to help you to integrate in your work environment, we've got coaches from all around the world can help you. Majority of them speak English though. So if you have any needs, please let us know on that front, because we have over 2,500 coaches in total that are available, and psychologists that are available to help if you need it. So more resources. What you can also do is look at the Exponential Leadership, which is my YouTube channel, and you can follow some other courses and get some other ideas there. We've done the presentations before, and those presentations are all in the playlist. That is the second one from the top on the YouTube channel. So that is where we will also expand all the additional videos that bring in the future. We'll put them in there. So we've done a little bit of an introduction already about Anna and myself. So yes, my name's Eksteen de Waal, and I live in Amsterdam, and I'm also a foreigner that migrated here 21 years ago, and have gone through my own trials and tribulations, so I could appreciate that you're going through yours. So we're here to give you a warm bath, a warm hug, and tell you welcome, and let's see how we can help you to settle in and find a home away from home for as long as is needed. So, the Netherlands and work. First things first, there are some things that are compulsory. One of the things you need to understand is that the Dutch will always try and make sure there's the least amount of risk, so a little bit risk averse. So one of the things that's compulsory in the Netherlands is having medical insurance. So if you get money from the government, or subsidies from the government, otherwise known as leefgeld, which we'll talk about in a little bit, you will get free medical insurance. If you work for it, you have to get your own. So just something to have in the back of your mind. Another type of insurance that's really important to be aware of is something called aansprakelijkheidsverzekering, or basically third-party insurance, as it's called in the UK and in the US, or liability insurance. So that means you let the tap run, your bath overruns, your neighbor's house is flooded. What do you do? Yeah, that kind of insurance. So it's highly recommended. It's usually quite cheap. But the moment you earn a salary, make sure that you get some of that. Because the moment you live on your own independently, it's handy to have that kind of insurance. So let's look at what are the places we can get money from. So one of it is that we can work for it. So in that working environment, we have two circuits in general in the Netherlands that we recognize. The one is the legal circuit and the illegal circuit, also known as black and white work. Black being illegal, white being legal. So what does that mean for you? In black work, there is no contract, there's no benefits, and because if it's illegal, it can affect your residency status. So please steer clear of anything that could affect your status. On white work, there's always a contract, so there's some form of agreement between you and an employer. You're getting a salary, and there's usually benefits. One of the things is holiday money, which means some part, usually about 8% of your salary every year is saved up, and you get paid that out usually in May as a holiday allowance. Now, leefgeld. That is something that the government or the governments across Europe has decided that they will provide as a stipend to people that have been displaced from the Ukraine. Now, that comes in two forms. The one was generally referred to as leefgeld, which has to do with food and clothing and toothpaste and those kind of things, so costs. And something that has to do with your accommodation or additional costs. So when the government provides you with accommodation, they will only give you leefgeld. If you're living in with a family, you will get the leefgeld plus that little bit of a stipend for accommodation. Because the government's obviously not spending that on you, so they're giving it to you in your pocket. And a nice thing to do with that is see how you can help the family you're staying with cover some of the costs. But again, that is not compulsory. So, when we talk about employment, there's been a lot of talk about what are you allowed to do. Now, as a Ukrainian that have come to the Netherlands, you are allowed to work. Now, that has a weird sound to it because it sounds like you can do everything, but it's not. The limitation is you can work for a salary, so you can be employed by someone. If you want to work as an independent contractor, or if you want to start your own business, that bit is not allowed without applying for an additional work permit specifically for that. So just be aware of that so you don't get into a situation where there becomes legal issues. And when you work for someone else, there's a few things I would be careful with. One of those things is volunteer work. So when you do volunteer work, there's an institution called the UWV, or basically the Dutch government, that will say if you're allowed to do volunteer work for that organization. The same thing with internships. Internships means you have to have an agreement between a company and a school that you're studying with to have a legal internship. And again, be careful with those with stipends, because it's not 100% clear right now what will happen if they give you a stipend, if your leefgeld will not be taken away from you. So just be careful with that. Working as a volunteer, working in essence for free, you know you're still going to get your stipend, you're still going to get that leefgeld, so that's not a problem. But we'll also look a little bit in a few seconds at how much money do you need to earn to be able to step away from that leefgeld earning. All right. So just to give you a little bit of background around the Netherlands, where are things in the Netherlands? I'm just quickly going to run through the provinces in the Netherlands. So the provinces that are the most highly populated are North and South Holland. So North Holland is in essence where Amsterdam is, South Holland is where Rotterdam and The Hague is, and they've got the province of Utrecht. So those form the core of most of the things people know about the Netherlands. It's a lovely little video on YouTube called The Difference Between Holland and the Netherlands. They talk really fast in it. You might want to slow it down, but it's a really funny way of getting to know a little bit more about all the different aspects of the Netherlands. But specifically what's interesting to know here is where are those provinces situated, because the majority of the statistics and information you will find will have to do with provinces, and then only does it drill down into cities. So when you're looking for job sites and so on, it's handy to know the region that you're in or the region you're willing to travel to, or where do you want to live when you look on job sites for things. So where are the most jobs in the country? Obviously where there are the most people. So South Holland and North Holland, or South Holland and North Holland, has the most jobs. And then Gelderland and Noord-Brabant. So let's just go back to the previous slide. And there you can see the provinces again. So you see Groningen, Noord-Brabant, South Holland, North Holland. And there we look at where are those jobs situated. Website, so you can see also on all the slides at the bottom I've put in links there, so we'll also put this PDF available to you guys so you can also download it and go to all the different websites that we've linked in the slide deck. So let's look at the stipend kind of money you get from the government, something called the leefgeld. So part of that has to do with food and clothing, as I said before, so it's €205 per person irrespective of age for food, and 55 on clothing irrespective of age. When it comes to the housing side of it, or that additional bit that they give you when you're living with someone else or in a sponsored situation, that's 215 per adult and 55 per child. So if we look across, food, clothing and housing all added together is €475 per month. Now what you also need to understand with this is €475 and there is no tax due on this. You get this clean out. You don't have to pay any income tax on this. So that also means that when we look at income, we also need to factor a few things in when we go off leefgeld into something else. So now let's look at salaries. So I've created 3 little examples here for you to explain what those possible scenarios could be. Now imagine if you as an individual go and get a salary, everybody else that's not earning a salary can still be on leefgeld. But if you go and earn a salary, it might also be that you can get unemployed again because you might get fired or your contract might end. We'll talk a little about that in a second. But for now, let's just look at minimum wage. Minimum wage, 1,725 euros. What generally happens to that? Now, firstly, there's going to be 638 euros income tax that's going to go off that. So you have just over 1,000 euros available after taxes. Then medical, which is compulsory, remember, that's what I said earlier. It's about 130, somewhere between 125 and 135, depending which package you take, but let's say about 130. Rental in a student flat or living with somebody else in the house, renting a room. So I've used this as a single occupancy or individual. So let's say you go live in another house with 4 or 5 other people. In general, in a place like Amsterdam, which is basically just outside Amsterdam, you'll pay about 600 euros per person per room. So accommodation is always going to be a big chunk of money that you're going to have to pay out every month. The other thing is services. So things like the local town council taxes, the service fees for the apartment that you're renting, the electricity, the energy bills, the gas bills, and the money the options I've given you there is basically the minimums. They can be as twice or even up to 3 times as much. So you have to be careful, be aware of these costs. And then the food money I've put in there is similar to what it comes out of the leefgeld. So you can see it's not a lot of room to spare. And that is if you're on minimum wage, you're going to start running into problems. The next step up will basically say, well, what if we wanted you to live independently, but still be able to buy at least 2 packets of cigarettes at the end of the month or something like that? And that is about 2,300 euros because, again, as you can see there, with the amount of tax that goes off, the medical aid, which is compulsory, the rental, which is now higher, but again, we're now looking at rural or in a town because it's not as expensive as in a city, and all the services and everything else that goes with that. Then example number 3 is when we live in a city, do you see how much the rental has jumped? It's almost doubled. And in a place like Amsterdam, the rentals can be really ridiculous. So, for instance, an apartment here in my neighborhood is about 1,600 euros a month for 40 square meters. Typically, on average in Amsterdam, you're paying about 20 to 22 euros per square meter per month. We covered all of this in the housing session last week, so you can look that up again on the YouTube channel. But just to give you an idea, earning money, how much do you need to earn to have something left over? Well, and I'm going to hand over to Anna, because Anna is going to present this for us and tell us a little bit more from a recruiter's perspective. What does the market look like and what to take into consideration?
Yes, perfect. Thank you very much. Where to start with is general information, what I already started with. We have been through the crisis of the COVID. So that's a result of that is actually a candidate shortage. It does mean that we have a lot of open positions at the moment, but no candidates to fill them in. So this creates actually a perfect opportunity for Ukrainians to take this chance and to check the international positions they can be a match for. Also, what you already been speaking about the provinces, the regions in the Netherlands, it's very important to mention that the provinces where there are most people living, they're also the most popular for their jobs. And those are North Holland, where Amsterdam is. There's South Holland, where you have The Hague and Rotterdam, and also province of Utrecht. So those are actually the most important regions where you have a lot of open jobs, open opportunities. I know a lot of people now, they have a housing somewhere else, Some people are in Groningen or some other provinces. And if you're planning to find a job and you're planning to move to find your own place, it's also very important to take a look at these provinces, take a look on the vacancy websites where you can find vacancies in the province of South Holland, North Holland, and North Brabant, and province of Utrecht. So maybe you can just check out for the housing in these provinces. It will make you easier to get a job and to move to the different province. Also, the popular jobs at this moment are a lot of in logistics. Logistics is actually blooming, and logistics can be interesting for Ukrainians. Why? Because a lot of positions in logistics, like packers, order pickers, production employees, those are positions where you don't need professional proficiency of Dutch or English. If you have a basic English, you still can get a logistic position at some of an international company. Also, the vacancies in cleaning, you have a lot of cleaning opportunities in the hotels. Also, in that moment, for sure, you have a lot of hotels in different provinces in different cities, but in the bigger cities you have a bigger amount of hotels, and so as a result more functions like that where you probably don't need any language to speak. Can you please help me to the next slide, Eksteen? Thank you. The very important one, what do you actually need to work in the Netherlands? Our government actually changed the rules, so it makes it easier for Ukrainians. You don't not have need a work permit to work in the Netherlands right now. So every Ukrainian can find a job and be legally employed in the Netherlands. You do need an Ukrainian passport to be employed. The most important one is BSN number. This number you can actually request at your local gemeente office. I think it takes a few days to get that, but without BSN number, you cannot be employed. If someone will reach out to you and to offer to be employed without a BSN number, please don't sign it. Be careful about that, because you cannot be legally employed in the Netherlands without a BSN number. Well, also, as I already told you, English is essential. If you have basic English, you still can have a job. And well, as I already told you, 92% of Dutch speak English, so it's not a problem to be employed in an international organization when everybody speaks English. Netherlands has also a lot of expats working from different countries, so communicate in English, working with Dutch colleagues also. All right, perfect. The CV is very essential if you are actually applying for a job in the Netherlands. I know a lot of people from Ukraine used to get a job via just contacting a director or HR manager and just get the job. I know that it doesn't work here, so you do need to set up a CV. It's a very important one. In the next slide, I will show you an example of a CV and some important things you have to be aware of. And the other important thing is your LinkedIn profile. I know Ukrainian people do not use that much, but in the Netherlands it's very essential. When you apply for a job, probably the very first thing that your boss will be doing is checking your LinkedIn profile to see your background, where have you been working for, and stuff like that. So make sure you will make a LinkedIn profile for yourself, put your background on it, put a professional picture on it, and start connecting with people. Because when you grow your network, your opportunities expand. And when you have a lot of network, you will actually get the first successes. Also, what I already told you, I don't know if you already heard me then, you are not allowed to be self-employed. You do need a work permit for that. So you are not allowed to start your own company in the Netherlands, because the Ukrainians do not have a work permit to be self-employed.
Thank you for that, Anna. One of the things I just want to make a quick note of there, when it comes to LinkedIn and using LinkedIn, we have recorded a previous session with Sam Rattling from the UK that was also a recruiter in the Netherlands at one point. And she's done a session for us specifically on using LinkedIn for job seekers. So you guys can always go back and have a look at that video. It's also recorded and available on the same channel. So I assume you want me to go to the CV slide, Anna. There we are.
Yes, perfect. Thank you very much. You can see on the right side, you can see the example of the CV. Actually, maybe you can hide the question bar so I can, yes, thank you very much. So if you can see on this example, well, just try to make your CV as clean as possible. There is no need to put there a lot of information. Start with your latest work experience. So actually above you will start with the last work experience, the company you've been working for, and what was your position in there. Try to prevent gaps between the work experience. So if you wasn't working for a long time, like 1 or 2 years, just put in there what's the reason for that. Maybe you were looking for a kid, have been looking for kids, or was just traveling. It's okay. Gap is okay when you actually can explain it. So just watch out for the gaps. Also, to write just a few words about yourself. If you can see in this example CV of Ivo Lammers, you can see a small piece of text when he actually talking about himself as a person. It makes it very personal when a potential boss is looking on the 10 CVs. It can make you interesting because you have some personal story on it. Also about the picture, please be aware that it should be a professional picture of your face when your face is fully visible. There are no filters allowed, no glasses allowed, no pictures with your friends. It should be just you, just a picture of your face when you're good visible. Also, talk about your skills and your interest in your CV. I know there's not a very big deal for a potential employer, but it makes it personal once again. Also, include the proficiency of languages you speak. It's very important to know what kind of languages you speak, not only for the employer, but also for a recruiter who will be searching for personnel and will call you for the certain position. Include your professional email address, and please just make sure that works, because recruiters can also reach out to the email address, and make sure you have a Dutch telephone number so recruiters or potential employers can reach out to you, because when they see the Ukrainian number, they actually are not able to reach you.
I think it's also important what you're saying there, Anna, is making sure that you have that professional looking email address, you know. I mean, I am the god of all men, you know, at Gmail is not the one that you want to use for your work environment.
Yes, I made there a few one example for sure. I can see it actually a lot in my daily life as recruiter. No professional email address, and it's actually kind of strange. So my advice is just create a professional email address. It will take you 5 minutes.
It also allows you that if you have the separate email address for looking for jobs, it also helps you to filter and find the emails that are being sent to you as well, I think, much more easily, especially in your job search.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, that's also a very good option.
Well,
Okay.
contracts.
Yes, also very important part of that. Which kind of contracts do we actually have in the Netherlands? The first type of contract is on-call contract. The second one is temporary contract and a permanent contract. If you will help me on the next slide, Eksteen, I can explain the differences between them. On-call contract is most of the time via recruitment agency, so it's probably if recruiter will call you and you will get a job via recruitment agency, you will get an on-call contract. What does it mean actually? It's a very flexible contract. You don't have an it's open-ended, so it's very flexible in that you will start, and it can be for 3 months, but it also can be for a year. You don't have any notice period. It actually means that if you want to leave, if you want to resign, you don't like the company anymore, you want to leave organization, you can leave any moment. But it's also a risk for you, because if the organization doesn't see a match in you as a candidate, or doesn't like you to work for the organization, they always can actually get rid of you any moment. So actually, for example, today they can tell you you are not needed anymore for tomorrow. Also, there are no fixed hours. You will get a contract, and 1 week you can work for 20 hours, but the second week you can work for 40 hours. Not every time. You have also different types of on-call contracts. Sometimes they are they name them zero hours contract, but it's not actually what I mean, because sometimes you can see if you're getting a job, your boss will tell you, I want you to work for 40 hours a week. And when you actually make this commitment, you will probably always get the 40 hours a week per work. But there are no fixed hours. So actually, if you will be working 20 hours, you will get paid for 20 hours. If you will be working 40 hours, you will get paid for 40 hours. You also have holiday allowance, so it's actually the holiday money that Eksteen was talking about. It's around 88% what you will get in May. And actually, I don't want you to be scared of the on-call contract. They're very flexible. Yes, you do have risks. Yes, but it's a very good opportunity for Ukrainians, and not only for Ukrainians, also for a lot of Dutch, to actually expand your network, to gain the work experience in the Netherlands, and to just get all started. So please don't be scared from on-call contract. It's a very good opportunity for you to get the work experience in the Netherlands, but just be careful for the things you're signing for. The next step is a temporary contract. That's a contract you usually will get from the organization it's herself, and it's most of the time it's a 1 month trial. So when you have the temporary contract, it cannot be less than 7 months, because if you have the contract less than 7 months, you don't have a trial period. If your contract is 7 months or more, you have 1 month trial period. And then in that month, you and also your employer always can tell every single day that you are not a match. There is also an end date. As I already told you, you have a contract for 7 months or a year. So you always know at that point your contract will be ended. And you also have, after this 1 month trial period, you have 1 month's notice. So if after 1 month trial, you want to resign, you want to leave the company, you found another job, it's all good, but you have to tell your boss 1 month before, and you still have to work 1 month before you leave for the other company. Temporary contract has also fixed hours. So if you sign your contract for 40 hours a week, you will be working 40 hours a week. So you have less risks in there with temporary contract. Holiday allowance, you still have that, and overtime is possible. So if your contract is for 40 hours, but you're working 45 hours, you will get paid for the 5 overtime hours, but not every company pays for overtime. And you also have paid leave and a holiday if you want to go on vacation. The last step actually is permanent contract. Permanent contract, what does it mean? You're actually getting a lifetime commitment with the organization. If company gives you a permanent contract, they want to have you on board on permanent base. So you don't have an end date in your contract. You're actually a lifetime employee there. If you want to leave the company, you still have 1 month or 2 months notice period, and you do have 1 to 3 months trial period. There are also fixed hours in that contract. So if you sign for 40 hours, you'll work 40 hours, you will get paid for 40 hours every single month. And the standard things, you get the holiday allowance, and overtime is always possible.
Somebody's brought up a question about what about working remotely? I'm putting up the question as we speak right now. It's about how can I work remotely, but the contract is, I assume, Dutch, but pay taxes in Ukraine and have a social security number or a BSN number. Shall we quickly just explore that a little bit? let's start with, it seems like it's multiple questions rolled into one, so let me break them down. Can you work remotely?
You absolutely can work remotely. In the past 2 years, with the Corona crisis, almost every company has been working remotely from home. And it's actually since I think maybe 4 or 5 months that we are back in the office again. But remote working, I do not expect it to be gone forever. There are some companies where you cannot, not actually the companies, but the functions, the roles when you're not allowed to work remotely because it's like production. You have to be in there to do the job. But if you can do your job on your laptop, you for sure can work remotely. And in 80% of times, you can work from home.
I think the most extreme example for me with that is I'm also part of the speaker community, and some of my fellow speakers have moved to Portugal during the Corona crisis and created studios for themselves at home, because they used to travel anyway when they spoke in different countries, but now they can actually do 3 or 4 speeches a day by being able to work from home or a home studio. So I thought that was quite interesting, and they're not planning on going. Now if people come over, they charge extra. So the standard rate is now online, and the extra rate is for travel.
Sure. Great
So,
example.
so another one is, what we also have there is that the other part of the remote working element is when we're looking at different contracts. If we're contracted in the Netherlands, we're also expected to pay tax in the Netherlands, right?
Absolutely.
Because as far as I know, that if we live for less than 6 months in a country, we can have the option of choosing the country where we lived the longest in to pay the taxes. And actually, the agreement is the country you lived in the longest, that's where you're going to have to pay taxes. I'm not sure if that's the same with Ukraine. I know that's the same with South Africa and most other European countries, though.
Well, good question. If that's true, and I've been living in Ukraine for 17 years, I would prefer to pay my taxes in Ukraine though, but I don't think it's possible actually because I think that's the question for belastingdienst in the Netherlands, but I don't think that's the option right now.
I think there's a qualification that's come in. Let me put that up as well. The person is explaining that it is not a Dutch contract, it's a Ukrainian contract for an international company, and she's currently working here from the Netherlands. As far as I know, you don't need a burger service number for that because you're not employed with a Dutch contract, right?
Oh yeah, I got that. So the company is based in Ukraine actually, and she's working. Um, are you working for the company which is based also in the Netherlands? It's like a franchise or an like an office what you have in the Netherlands and also in Ukraine, and now you're working for a Dutch office in place of that one in Ukraine, because in that case you still work for a Dutch office. But if you work for the Ukrainian company and you work remotely, in that case, I guess you have to pay taxes in Ukraine because you're still employed in the Ukrainian company.
Maybe it's an interesting example. Let me use my husband as an example. He works for a large multinational pharmaceutical company. He's contracted in Leiden. His office that he works in is in Belgium, and the company is American. All right. So the contract that he has that's in Leiden is with a Dutch legal entity. So for all legal intents and purposes, he is contracted in the Netherlands in the country that he is a resident in. However, if you're a resident, so for instance, if he starts working for more than 50% of the time in Belgium and he's staying over there, then after more than 6 months worth, he will have to pay taxes in Belgium, and our whole tax burden and everything else, including our housing, moves over to a Belgian tax system. So I'm just wondering if residency, what the difference is between residency impact and contractual impact.
Yeah. Very good one. I know also there are a lot of people who are working in Belgium and live in the Netherlands, and I know they pay taxes and in Belgium and in the Netherlands. So I actually don't want to give advice which is not correct. In that case, I guess you have to contact the Belastingdienst for that. But I think if you actually employed in the Ukrainian branch, and you just work remotely from Amsterdam, it actually doesn't matter. I guess you're still paying your taxes in Ukraine, not in not in the Netherlands.
That sounds about right. The thing is, for the first 6 months, it's not going to make much of a difference because you're not going to, the tax department is not going to worry about that. Taxes are normally filed per calendar year, so you basically have till the end of the year to sort it out or figure it out. And if you need a tax consultant or somebody that knows more about these international tax services, let me know. I've got a few people that I use myself and for my company. I'm sure they'll be willing to give you a bit of advice on the side and not to worry about it. For now, if you have a job and you're working with a Ukrainian contract and you're living in the Netherlands, I don't think anybody's going to bat an eyelid until the end of the tax year or at least 6 months have expired. I hope that helps a little bit. Shall we go on to our next slide? There we go. Minimum wage. Take us away.
Yes, all right. It's the salary expectations. I know a lot of you are wondering how much I will earn. The minimum wage in the Netherlands when you're 20 years or above, it's 1,725 euros a month, and its result is 398 and 10 cents per week. All right, I know that everyone from you is wondering what will be my salary, what's okay, what should I sign for, and I don't want you also to sign for less or stuff like that, because there is also a rule in the Netherlands that you have a minimum wage of salary. And when you're 21 years or older than that, your minimum wage will be 1,000 euros, 725 euros per month, and it's as a result it's 398 and 10 cents euro per week, and it's a result actually that you earn a little bit less than 80 euros a day. Please be aware that this is a gross salary. Actually in the Netherlands, when you get a salary offer, can you please help me to the next slide, Eksteen, please? Yes, thank you. Salaries in the Netherlands are always offered as gross, and it's called bruto in the Netherlands, and it's actually amount before taxes and insurance go off. So the offer of the salary is based on a full week. A full week is always 40 hours. If contract is for less hours, you get paid less, because you will get your contract, and if you in your contract is your salary for 1,800 euro, it's always based on 40 hours a week. So it does mean that if you're gonna work for 24 hours, you will get less than 1,800 euro, obviously. And it's also a brutto salary, so before the taxes and insurance go off. So on your bank, it will be less than the amount that's shown on the contract. Also very important to know, the higher the salary, the more the taxes. So it's actually when you have a minimum wage, you also have a minimum percentage of the taxes that go off. When you have a higher salary, let's say 5,000 euro gross or something like that per month, your taxes will be around 40% or more. Please be aware that if you have a job, if you got a job, you signed your contract, you start working, be aware that you will lose your leefgeld. You will not receive any leefgeld from gemeente, from the government. But if you have a job and your partner or someone you came with and you live together with doesn't work, he or she will still receive the leefgeld. I don't want to encourage people or to motivate people to not lose the leefgeld. I actually want people to see the opportunities and to see the chances, and to actually to go and get work for the salary, because you have so much more opportunities when you get your job. Your network expands and you have a lot of actually opportunities than just get your leefgeld.
The thing I never like doing as an employer, sometimes we have to part ways with employees, and that's the saddest thing for me when you come to that realization. But unfortunately, these things happen. So I called today with the unemployment office just to double check what the current rules are. And the rules are the same for Ukrainians as well. And that is you have to have worked at least 26 weeks out of the last 38 weeks to be able to earn unemployment benefit. So the first 6 or so months can be a little bit precarious because if so I would recommend personally that try and find a job where you can at least get a 6 or 7 month contract, because then you cover those 26 weeks. And that means that if anything should go wrong, the relationship between you and the employer sours, or you want to go look for something else, and or people say, listen, I can't afford to pay you anymore, you've got to go, kind of thing, then you at least have a bridging period. Now, the bridging period is always a minimum of 3 months. So that will give you an additional 3 months, so basically from 6 to 9 months to find another job. So I know that when we're under duress and stress and we're in a situation where we've come from where we may have lost everything, um, risk is something that we need to be aware of. So if you are, let's say for instance, let's take an example. If it was me and I came here with my mum and my dad and my 2 kids and a wife, then or a partner, then I would say, you know what, one of us will take the risk and go look for a job. The other ones will use the leefgeld to survive on, because leefgeld's not a lot of money, but at least it can help you survive. And take the 6 months or 7 months, try and find accommodation that doesn't cost you any money for those 6 months, or as little as possible, so that you're prepared that when that 6 months rolls past and that security blanket kicks in, then you can start taking a few more risks. Amongst other things, looking for an accommodation that you can pay for yourself, going completely independent. I know what it's like for me. I'm an extremely independent person. So for me to have to stay with someone else or be dependent on other people in the past has always been extremely difficult. So from what I've understood from Kostya, there's a lot of our friends from Ukraine that are the same. And I get that, but also think about the risks that you're facing at the moment and try and allow the system to help you take care of your family. That's how I would personally approach it. All right. There's some information we'll send with you as well, this link at the bottom that explains a little bit more. So please ask some questions. We'll leave some time for questions. In the meantime, I'm just quickly going to talk to you guys about other sessions that we have upcoming. There is a session coming up where Kostya, we will record it next week and we'll publish it probably towards the end of next week, where Kostya is going to talk to Arthur, and Arthur is a psychologist, and they're going to talk about what is it like living with someone else. What kind of things do you need to take care of or think about? And also, what if someone comes to live with you? So we're talking about things like, do you help someone? Do you support someone? Do you rescue someone? What are these psychological things that we need to be aware of? I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation. Now, that conversation will be in Russian and or Ukrainian. It will not be in English, just so that you're aware. Some of the sessions that may come up in the future will also probably be in Russian and Ukrainian. Some of the sessions like this one, we like to have the basics in both basically available in English, so we can create the subtitles in a different language, and also makes it available to people that might be hosting, so they can also understand what kind of information is available to you. So another thing that we're looking at has to do with coping interventions. So basically, when stress really hits you, when there's a really difficult time or a dark time, how do you cope with difficult stress scenarios? We'll do some interventions there. We will basically get you to sit with us and go through a practice of something like a high intensity interval meditation, or coping mechanisms and strategies, question techniques that comes from hostage negotiation, things like that, that can help you build relationships with people around you, even though they come from a completely different culture. All right. So I don't see any more questions coming in. So Anna, is there anything else you would like to add?
No, I think I completely done. I hope we could help someone with their first step. If there are any questions, you can reach out to us after the session. Please feel free to contact us on LinkedIn, or just send us a message, or give us a heads up. It was thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much for our invitation, Eksteen. It was nice to be a part of it.
I'm really glad to have had you. So for people, you've already said that LinkedIn is really important to build a network with, especially if you're going to reach out B2B, business to business. So you're going to reach out for other people that are recruiters or people that recruit for companies specifically, or internal recruiters. It's handy to be on LinkedIn, and it's really important to build your network there. So here are 2 names you can already add to your network. So you create your LinkedIn profile, you scan these 2 QR codes, and remember, because we're recording this, you can always come back to these QR codes, and you can link with myself and with Anna on LinkedIn, and you've got your start of your network. If you watch any of the other videos back, you'll also see all the presenters are always putting up their LinkedIn connections, so you can always link with them and start building that network that's going to help you find the job that will make you feel valued and make you feel proud and make you take care of your family. All right. Don't see any more questions coming in, so I think we'll call it a day. Thank you so much for Anna. I really appreciate the fact that you were here and that you could
Thank
be
you
with
very
us
much.
today.